My name is Marcella Walsh, Live Content Coordinator at AVIXA. Today we will be discussing BIM and digital media, a digital twin. We'll hear about how to overcome obstacles for smart building integration. Before we begin the discussion, please note the following. This webinar has been approved for one CTS, CTSD, or CTSI RU credit for those viewing live. Please allow 5 to 7 business days for the RU to appear on your transcript. Have a question? Email webinars@avixa.org. The webinar will be approximately 45 to 60 minutes and all attendees will be placed on mute. Click the speech bubble icon to open the event chat. Let us know where you are logging in from today and what topics you would like to see in future power hours. If you have questions during the presentation, please enter them in the Q&A window so that the moderator can address them during the webinar. The Q&A window can be found by clicking the icon at the bottom of your video box. Please do not enter your questions into the chat window. You will have access to this recorded webinar at avixa.org/webinars within about 5 business days. You can also access other Smart Buildings Power Hour webinars at the same link. Joining us today is our Smart Buildings Power Hour Moderator-in-Chief, Bob Snyder, Editor-in-Chief of Channel Media. Bob is the publisher of Smart Building News, Digital Signage News EMEA, European Solution Provider, and more. For the past 10 years, he has been the content chairman for the Smart Building Conference at ISE. And now I'll hand things over to Bob.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm going to share my screen here. Thank you for coming, everybody. Welcome. Our topic today, we're going to be talking about BIM and digital twin.
Bob, your camera's not on. Sorry. And we can't see your screen.
Okay. Thanks.
There you are.
And my screen is on now?
I do not see it. Now it's starting. There you go.
Okay.
Perfect.
Wonderful. Thank you. All right. Today, our topic in the Power Hour is BIM and digital twin. Thank you for coming. What we'd like to do is to explain that we try to segment the power hours into topics, but a lot of the topics run throughout everything in the smart building. So something like IoT might come up in almost every single smart building power hour. So here we are, we're on our 10th power hour. And thank you for bearing with us through a very large subject, and we hope you've enjoyed it so far. We're going to continue on with several more power hours. And what we
Bob, you are coming in and out.
then as we build the agenda for some extra power hours. Our speakers, my experts today, I'd like to introduce 3 people which I think will be very helpful to deliver what you'd like to hear about BIM and digital twin. My first speaker is Kevin Dooley. He's the Chief Strategy Officer for Emphatic Building at Haltesian, and he is also a postdoctoral researcher in smart buildings at Aalto University. He has almost 20 years of experience in the built environment and has worked in London, Sydney, Dublin, Helsinki. The Emphatic Building Service combines a digital twin with real-time data from IoT, and the experience of end users in building is the top priority. Thank you for joining us, Ken.
Thanks, Bob.
Also with me is Craig Backman. He's the Chief Revenue Officer, with 30 years of experience, and he's been leading teams delivering innovative strategy and breakthrough results across product development, marketing, sales, and digital transformation. He's working now for ThoughtWire, which is a digital twin technology company. And Craig brings us passion for storytelling, which makes him perfect for my group here. Thanks, Craig, for coming. Appreciate it. And we have with us Dr. Claire Penny. And Claire has been the global digital evangelist at Invicar, where she gets to combine her passion, experience, and learning from the past 21 years, enabling her to effectively assist companies on their digital twin journey. She previously worked at IBM, which is where we met, actually, and she was there for 19 years and was the global industry leader at IBM for the Watson IoT for Cognitive Buildings Group. Most recently, she was the commercial director at WIA Technologies, an IoT startup focusing on smart buildings. Thanks for joining us, Claire. Appreciate that. I want to just lay a little groundwork here and say, BIM's been around for a long time, and one of the things that they're coming to the conclusion that they're thinking BIM might be underutilized and might be able to play a bigger role in the life cycle of buildings at different parts. And this is something that we'll explore today. I like, Jeffrey Thibodeau's comment, so I put it up here. If you boil it down to its essence, BIM is a communication tool. And as a communication tool, it is able to be used at different stages for collaboration. And what some people are trying to do is to move into what they call a connective BIM, where this means using a connected model can take it through the different life cycles and add value. And that brings it into contact, let's say, with digital twin. We'll talk about that in a minute. And according to PwC, which used to be PricewaterhouseCoopers, the use of building information management and digital twins can produce 3% savings on these massive real estate projects where returns are single digit anyway. So that's a huge incentive for people. And whereas the BIM model is currently more for the designing and constructing of the building and keeping track of different things in that design and construction, the digital twin is really a continuous flow of sensor data over IT, which is generating a lot of valuable analytics. Both are beneficial, and we'll explore how beneficial. But Dean Hopkins over at Oxford Property says digital twins, it's quite clear that buildings with a fully conceived digital twin would be worth more than those without. I think this is something that we'll discuss in the panel, but there's opportunities with digital twin that sound very parallel to BIM, where you can use them in more different ways. And in fact, I wanted to put up this picture, which is from a Bosch sales meeting, where they show digital twin in the life cycle of a building, and they're showing 6 different digital twins, actually, or one that is evolving through different stages. So this is also something that we're going to nail down, because is a digital twin the same as the digital twin somebody else is talking about? So we'll dive into that in a minute. This brings me back to my experts, and I'm going to stop sharing slides so that I can bring you them in person and in persona. And perhaps we can get started, folks, with, and I want to go straight to digital twin, and talk about what is a smart building digital twin. And perhaps, we could start. Craig, would you mind starting and just try to unmute and tell us?
Sure. So I would look at a digital twin as it relates to a building to really be, it's a near real-time digital image of the physical object or building. And it's all about helping to optimize both the efficiency and effectiveness of the building and the organization that runs it, as well as driving better experiences for the end users within a building.
All right. And I ran across this thing at a RUP where they tried to describe 5 levels of digital twin, and their levels started off with what sounded like a pretty dumb digital twin to a fairly sixth sense level digital twin that's anticipating everything that you need. So maybe we should talk about it. we still a long way from an industry landscape populated by reasoning models, machine conscious twins evolving? Who would like to address that? Ken? Oh, Claire, please jump in, Claire.
Thank you. Yeah. So I think it has to be use case driven. And so we are a long way from kind of autonomous cognitive buildings as described by Arup. As is the whole industry. AI is an emerging technology. And if you think about brain surgeons, they only know about 2% of the brain, and we're trying to emulate that, right, in the physical world. And so I agree that we are just at the kind of understand and learn point of digital twins. But a digital twin is taking the geometry, taking the information that's born and seeded by the BIM process, by a 3D model, and then supplementing that with real-time IoT data, as Craig outlined, and using that. And it has to be use case driven. So what are the use cases? And oftentimes the simplest use case is I want a digital asset management O&M manual, for example. And so that comes from the 3D model into a platform, a unified data model platform that enables people to quickly interrogate the model, the assets in the model, and find information about that particular asset. Then you can move on as the use cases and the business case permits to have real-time data to start to understand how those assets within the building are performing, etc. So I think it's a huge jump to go straight to the machine learning, AI, cognitive space when we haven't nailed the most simplest use cases first.
And you know, are those, you know, help me here because I'm slightly ignorant on digital twins, you know, but the, you know, are the digital twins that they're using during the design stage the same digital twins that they're using in other stages? Are they just, you know, increased in authority, or are they actually new software brought in?
So if I can go in on that one again, I mean, a digital twin is not a product. It's a platform, it's a solution, and it's not one product can deliver a digital twin. It has to be a combination of multiple solutions, software solutions, to enable a digital twin to exist. So the digital twin can start at the design requirement stage with an OIR and AIR, and then be built upon via a project twin. And the data has to be trusted. The information and data within that is born within that digital twin has to be trustworthy, because the minute it's not trustworthy, you lose everybody. Okay, so it has to be classified, it has to be verified information. And then you get into the asset twin, which is what I just discussed. And then you can build onto a performance twin where you start bringing in real-time data.
And, you know, Ken, what about the emphatic building?
Yeah, so I have a smart buildings background with design and kind of using building information models. But I think when you said earlier on, BIM is underutilized, I actually think BIM is overloved. So actually, you know, we're talking about a life cycle and operations phase solution that really everything is being dictated by things that matter at construction and design stage. So, you know, we're allowing the 50 or 100-year life cycle of the building. We're allowing that tool to be defined, you know, by a 5-year or around that kind of design and construction phase. So when you said the Arup report said something that sounded like a dumb digital twin, I actually like them. I call them simple digital twins. And the great thing about simple digital twins is they are use case driven, they are available in 2021. And I've kind of jumped lately from the construction and design BIM digital twin kind of, let's say, dialogue and kind of research area. And I think the thing that alarmed me was just the amount of people in the industry really working on kind of complex, heavy BIM-driven digital twins. And with the fact that we've been promised them for kind of 10 or 15 years, we're really working on twins that are kind of really active now, and things that are kind of on the market right now. Really light, but solving problems, digital twins.
And they're certainly, the press is filled with digital twins, not just for smart buildings, but for industrial as well at the moment. And you see it popping up all over the place. And so again, maybe Craig, you can help me out here with ThoughtWire. What types of companies, are using ThoughtWire and for what here?
So we're doing work with individual buildings, head offices, that kind of thing. But more recently, there's a trend towards looking at districts. So we now have 5 active projects dealing with, in city districts, anywhere from 20 acres to 50 acres around the globe, where we're looking at putting our digital twin in to power the entire district and completely connected across all types of buildings, and not just a building management solution, but also a solution that will deliver a better user experience for the people who are living, working, and playing in those districts.
And just for our audience, a lot of them are integrators and installers. How complicated is it to be, to get up to speed on digital twin and to, let's say that you wanted to get involved in it. I have 2 doctors on my panel, so I'm wondering if you have to have a doctorate degree to get up there. Any doctor want to answer that? Is there a doctor in the house?
I can help answer that. So I guess again, we have kind of these quite light digital twins that actually we make almost like interactive 2D floor plans that we extrude into 3D. We take them from CAD drawings just to really make sure they're as light as possible. And then the kind of use cases we're interested in solving are really basic things like office buildings, finding a desk, finding a meeting room. So from an installer perspective, we create a digital twin, and then the kind of IoT devices are battery powered, really easy to install. Actually, some of our customers actually even install them themselves. And then after that, it's a gateway and some battery powered IoT. And after that, you kind of have the data, whether you're using it for employee facing to find a desk, or kind of management facing to understand kind of cleaning on demand or space utilization. So kind of jumping on the bandwagon is relatively simple with the kind of more simpler use cases.
And there's go ahead, Claire.
Sorry, I was just going to jump in.
Sure.
From our perspective, we have a platform as a service with underlying microservices. So any third party can avail of those underlying services and build their own using scripting, JavaScript, to build their own applications on top. So we give everybody a leg up. And it can be anything from, a project twin and doing the classification, as I said, from an asset twin where you're getting the data about each individual mechanical system within the building and having that O&M. And then the icing on the cake, the performance twin, where you then start to, as Ken was saying there, bring in the IoT to give the occupant experience, to look at space management, asset management, etc. And what we're finding is people are really resonating with that. So third parties can avail of the platform and run with it, basically, because those microservices and those underlying applications exist for them to give them a leg up. Because one size does not fit all. Every building is different, so you cannot have a product, to do this. That's very rigid.
And so you would say that someone with an IT background or someone with a, let's say, a data mindset, would be comfortable, jumping in here and getting involved. And there's certainly a lot of opportunities, right?
Yeah, or anybody with an idea, oftentimes, they have the idea, but not the skill set to do it. So, there are companies out there that have the skill sets, but not the ideas. So it's because they don't understand the industry. So it's the coming together as well of teams that helps.
Okay. And what about, describing, in a little more depth, the link between Internet of Things and digital twin? If I think that all of you are engaged in Internet of Things as well, right?
Absolutely.
I think from my perspective, again, our kind of definition of digital twin is really light, and I think the thing that we really want is we want up-to-date as-built drawings or models. And sometimes, from my history in the Nordics, when we have BIM-based digital twins and we and we have kind of as-built models because of the kind of cost to update, kind of walls get knocked down or meeting rooms get moved or meeting pods get moved or something. That the actual problem is that they become out of date, and then there's a question, are they fit for purpose? So I guess our really light perspective is we want just up-to-date, intuitive kind of drawings that everyone can use. And the lighter it is, maybe we can put furniture and plants and kind of it's kind of more landmark based. And then once we have an up-to-date model, then any kind of embedded data, then any kind of real-time IoT data, then is kind of kind of really helping that. So either it's CO2 or temperature, indoor conditions in rooms, or it's kind of occupancy sensors, or it's even fill rates for garbage bins, or fill rates for hand sanitizer and soap, which are kind of big things at the moment. Nobody wants their hand sanitizer to be empty. So they're the kind of really kind of simple things at the moment, and IoT is kind of brilliant for those kind of things.
And Craig, maybe in terms of ThoughtWire and IoT.
Yeah, so we started in the hospital space, really a purpose designed to serve hospitals, which are incredibly complex in terms of the number of different data sources. So data is king. Like, you have to have access to the data, and IoT gives you an opportunity to connect into pretty much anything and drive that into the digital twin. So to me, the two concepts are married, and you have to facilitate the data exchange between IoT and the digital twin so you get an accurate picture.
So we started to address some of the problems that digital twin solves, but I think maybe we should be more categorical here. And what is the primary reason to jump into, let's say, Ken's simple digital twin, and then what is the reason to graduate to a more complicated solution? Ken, why don't you start on the types of needs your customers have?
Yeah, so I guess we really recognize that in office buildings, there's a huge number of suppliers who all kind of need maps or drawings, and they all have out-of-date PDFs, and that's kind of a really fragmented world. If it's the cleaners, or just the kind of maintenance people, or the reception staff, or whoever it is, catering companies delivering food into different meeting rooms, they all have a need for some kind of navigation or some kind of awareness of the spaces, but they all have their own separate maintained or out-of-date, let's say, drawings. We even have a building, and I really like boring, mundane use cases because they remind you how many people have a stake in a building. So we have an office building where the flowers, the plants are outsourced, and the company that owns the plants and rents them to us come in once a week and water the plants. And their staff turns over quite a lot, and they have a lot of plants in the building, and they have on a PDF drawing some X's around. And why can't those people have a beautiful digital map that's used by everyone else, and that actually really helps their kind of new staff, and maybe even is optimized to navigate them around the building in the quickest time. There's so many services that need these kind of things, if it's annual inspections or whatever it is, that we want them to have a kind of up-to-date drawing with a beautiful kind of user interface, easy to use. And once we kind of solve those simple low to medium value use cases, then we really have a kind of functioning business model. That means the model is always updated. And after that, we can build to the bigger targets. But we kind of want to start there because of maybe the kind of delay a little bit in the kind of BIM side of things.
All right, I have one question on the simple side, then we're going to turn to our other experts here to talk about more complicated digital twins. But on the simple side, does it ever happen that you have a digital twin that's not for an entire building? It's for a floor or for a meeting room?
We even have
conference area?
we even have smart washrooms that's being really popular. So people want to know hand towels and soap dispensers and these kind of things, and they're going to pay for the IoT, and they'd love to have a nice user interface, which isn't just numbers on a screen. So they can have that in a building as well, and that can be done. We can have a building with just the washrooms. They get the whole digital twin. They just use the washrooms, and then we'll say to them, okay, you have a digital twin for the whole building. Use it for the service tickets. Use the digital twin even for nothing else, just plotting where the problems are. So you start off with the washrooms just covered, but the digital twin is so inexpensive, you can just use it for, whatever else that you want. And it kind of starts that way quite generally.
All right. Again, for your clients, do they have to be massive corporations to get involved with digital twins?
No, and that's kind of a bit of something that the market kind of thinks. So we have a really light digital twin that's kind of really inexpensive to make. And then we have battery powered IoT. So a lot of our customers come when they're moving office and they want a new fancy, to match their new fancy fit out. But actually, we're really retrofittable. And that's a kind of message I'm really trying to get out there. So thanks for asking, Bob.
I'll repeat it so everybody got it. Retrofittable. I love the word.
Retrofittable. Yeah, exactly.
Retrofittable.
Yeah.
It has such a ring. Craig, I saw you shaking your head in agreement when you talked about the fact you don't have to have a big corporation to leverage digital twin. Is that something you've experienced?
Yeah, so we have examples of very small clients that have required a digital twin up to great big ones. What you need to have is the desire and the demand. And as Claire mentioned, the ideas. And then we can go in at any level and make sense of it. Obviously, we'd rather talk to a large corporation that wants to spend more money, but yeah, it's totally doable. There's no magic.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
data into a twin.
Yeah, and Claire, I'm going to let you speak on behalf of the complicated digital twin, the digital twin with more attitude.
I wouldn't say complicated, I'd say more complete.
More complete.
Yeah, so could you just refresh me on the question, Bob? I've just lost my...
Oh, it's no problem. We talked with Ken about having the simple digital twin and the reasons for it, but I just wanted to move up market and say what are the reasons for using a more complete digital twin?
Yeah, so a lot of our clients are building owners, and what they're realizing is that they have a lot of items to address as a building owner. So for example, one particular client of ours simply wanted to ensure that if they had to do, for example, replace a pane of glass, that they could interrogate the twin, understand the size, the manufacturer, where that pane of glass came from, order it, and then the people go in, the maintenance team go in and fit that, the repair team go in and fit that once, right? So it saves time, you're not disturbing people, you're not going into measure, you're not going back to check something else, you just do all of that once. Very simple use case. And then beyond that, the building owners with ESG, we have a lot of people talking to us about life cycle assessment, so the origins of materials and products, and to ensure how that's going to work out within their goals for their life cycle assessment, whether that fits into the criteria. A huge amount of companies are talking about net zero carbon and how they achieve that, and they want the embedded carbon as well as the operational carbon. So being able to have that information up front, and be able to classify models and then bring that classified and verified data through into the digital twin, so that during the operations phase, when you replace something, you're replacing like for like, and it doesn't impact on your targets around net zero carbon, etc. That's another use case. And then, as we've said, the IoT is the icing on the cake, so that once you have a building that you've done all the analysis and it's going to be net zero carbon, that you can ensure during operations that it actually is, because one of the biggest wastes of energy is equipment not operating as it was commissioned to operate, and failing, and then sending the right people to do the right job, being able to find the asset very quickly or the equipment to fix it, and doing the job right the first time through diagnosis, through triage, through the power of information that fault detection and ultimately in time machine learning and AI will provide people. So it's that holistic view. And obviously building owners now, a lot of money is coming via funds that insist on the quality of their environmental, social and governance, how they're delivering those buildings. So that's a huge one as well that we're talking to building owners around. And then design engineering companies talk to us about how they remain sticky with their customers. So once they've designed a building, how can they ensure that that building is operated as they designed it? So again, that's another use case for a digital twin that we're talking to people about.
I want to underline, for the audience here, again, what we have is relatively, correct me, my experts, if I overstep myself here, but what we have here is a relative greenfield. We have a way for people to get involved in a new tool that seems to be able to be used for multiple things, and where your creativity is welcome to figure out new ways to apply it, and where you can start in a washroom or a meeting room, and once you're successful there, you can try bigger and more complicated things. It sounds like certainly a very classy business opportunity in that as well. So I think that's one thing I'd like to underline so people in the audience are paying attention. So we talked about some of the benefits and some of the different companies and that. I wanted to mention that a number of startups seem to have adopted the vision of turning BIM into the project's digital twin. And their success would mean opening up a whole new world of value to explore. And I think Ken kind of addressed this early on, saying, I don't think you want to see BIM going there, Ken, right?
Yeah, well, I love BIM and I love the more complete digital twins. I know things like predictive maintenance, and I have kind of an energy, kind of climate change background. So things like predictive maintenance and, running energy simulations the day before in order to buy your energy in advance or whatever it is. I think there's some amazing use cases around kind of technical due diligence when you're, selling a building, that you can understand the kind of maintenance debt in advance, just like Claire said about having all those product details. So I think there's a huge potential there. I guess we're just waiting for all of the different elements to mature, so it becomes this kind of really production level, platform level solution. So we need the building owners to pay for it, and then they need to kind of get that benefit back. So their service providers, who might be a maintenance company, give them a 10% discount on being a maintenance provider in that building because there's this awesome digital twin. Or the cleaners can have cleaning on demand or whatever it is, so they have a discount. And I think we need to align that business model. Who has to pay for it? Who has to run it? And what do they get in advance? We've done a lot of research, and the expectation is the building owners should pay for it. Everyone's pointing at them, and they're saying, okay, so what do we get? And then I think after that, we really need to understand how to turn a kind of BIM, a design and construction building information model, not just into an as-built BIM, but embedding all the important data, like the building management system, and we need better APIs from those guys, and then this kind of supporting tools like augmented reality for facility management, all those kind of things. So I think there's huge potential, and I know there's huge potential. And I guess it's just what those steps are. Is it an iterative process? What's coming down the line next year and the year after? Or do we have to lock ourselves in a room for 5 to 10 years and come out with this amazing solution? And I guess it's that iterative, let's get something in our hands to play with, that has been slightly lacking a little bit, maybe from my biased opinion, because I was an innovation director working on these things, and my attention span is too short. So kind of I've given up. But there's plenty of people carrying the torch for me.
Yep, I'm sure there are, but it's good to hear from you on this, Ken. I mean, you have a lot of experience in it, so I appreciate it. The familiarity with BIM in a lot of cases is just, for example, a lot of the vendors have to submit their products to get them, BIM certified in the BIM value so they can be used in the design and all that. But, if you have connected BIM, does that, create any value to digital twins, or do digital twins not need that value because they're already, does it become a competition to digital twin, or does it actually become useful to digital twin?
So a BIM model is not data centric. Yeah, there's, you know, that's not what it's about. It's geometry and things like this. So it's not a data model. So a digital twin is a unified data model. And so the BIM. So in our experience, we don't need a BIM, a 3D model or a GIS model or any maps or anything like that to deliver a digital twin to a customer. It adds value because it gives that visualization. But BIM has a place, and it's a great seed. And oftentimes BIM is only for new builds. And if you think about I mean, it's cliched now, but the number of new builds compared to existing buildings is night and day. So we have
the retrofitted.
Fittable. Yeah, you know, so you have to, as Ken said, address that market as well, because it's a much bigger market. And, you know, why not have a digital twin for an existing building? So whilst BIM is extremely valuable as a process, as a communication tool, and I think you said that at the beginning, and I like that a lot, it's a different horse. Do you know what I mean? But you can bring them together and connect them and have them interoperable, because, you know, as we've stated, and as Ken has stated, you need that visualization to be current and accurate at all times. So you need to be able to have interoperable solutions, but it's not the be all and end all, right? So it will never be a true competition to a true digital twin platform, but it's a nice add-on, and it's a nice value add-on to visualize and give that geometry.
And when PricewaterhouseCoopers, PwC, sorry, I'm old school. When PwC says that you can save 3%, do you feel that 3% is the ballpark, you know, that we're in, or, you know, is it less or more? Claire?
I did it. Yeah, sorry, I don't want to hog the stage, but I did a piece of work when I was in IBM with a construction company who I can't mention. But basically what we did was we used the concept of BIM as data. Okay, so delivery of data across the life cycle stages. And so if you had the BIM model and you added in the data, you know, the data doesn't live in the BIM model or the 3D model, but you can integrate the data and have the data available. If you have that data from design construction, what does that mean across the life cycle of the building? And we identified that between 3 and 7%, and it was a bit of a, because we went to all the different disciplines, and one discipline said it's 25%, and then the other discipline said it's 3%. Anyway, with the client, we agreed at 3 to 7% was completely conservative, to have this information, this data available to users, to operators of the building, to the owners of the building throughout its life cycle was invaluable. And I'll give you at the end, at the decommissioning stage of this building, because we took it through its, you know, from a cradle to grave. They were going to have to spend 2 years doing a survey on the building, because A, they didn't know what hazardous materials were in the building, and B, they didn't know what was of value in the building. Right, so they didn't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater and throw money down the drain. So it was going to take them 2 years. Whereas if they had a digital twin that had been kept up to date and was a digital representation, a data model of that building, they wouldn't have had to do that, because they could have interrogated it quickly, identified where it was, isolated it, and, you know, decommissioned the building much quicker.
I think that's one thing the pandemic has showed us, that people who embrace the future were better off when the future came.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's just a reality of it. And I hope people, particularly those stingy owners that we always complain about, who never want to invest in anything, you know, they're quite a hard crowd. I hope they take that to heart and embrace it in that. Greg, why don't you tell us a little bit how ThoughtWare is proceeding these days, because you've got you know, I should say, a good reputation out there, and I've seen the work that you're doing. So tell us a little bit about what's happening at ThoughtWare.
So I think I was mentioning that we're getting into the district area now. Historically, it was more one building at a time, or maybe a portfolio of buildings. But this district idea is starting to get some traction, and we think there's more cities out there that are exploring the opportunity of a district, and we just see huge opportunity in that area. And what it does is you end up with a twin of twins, if I can go there, and creating a twin of twins, connecting different buildings together, connecting open spaces, parking lots, cars in the area. You can connect just about anything to the digital twin. And I think we're spending a lot of time looking at, well, what does that mean not only to the ownership of the district in terms of what we can deliver? Claire mentioned ESG, environment, social, and governance. Huge opportunity there to deliver on all three of those areas. And we've spent a lot of time dimensionalizing that and getting traction with that. But then also spending a lot of time on what does that user experience look like? And we think that the user experience we can give people who are in a connected district is just incredible. And if you relate it back to any of the apps that are on your phone that you use all the time, you use it because it makes your life better. And we think that we'll be in a similar space in terms of helping people live a better life by being connected all day long to the environment around them, including the buildings where they live, where they work, and where they play.
Can you tell us a little bit more about what's on those apps, the types of things that are beneficial
Sure.
for the districts? Yeah.
Yeah, so you could imagine waking up in the morning in a condo within one of these districts, and your app's going to set your condo the way you want it. It may make your coffee for you. It's going to help you find the fastest way to work. It may allow you to pick up your dry cleaning on the way. It's going to guide you through your day. And when you get to work, it'll be a security pass for opening the door. It'll align you with the right workspace and possibly log you in. Through the day, it'll give you advice on everything, and from ordering lunch and whatnot. And then that carries right through till when you leave. It'll book your reservation. It'll connect you with your friends. It will get you tickets for the concert down the road. And then at night, it'll set your condo the way you want it in terms of all of the settings when you want to go to sleep. So it's an end-to-end day experience, all driven off a digital, like a connected digital twin.
Yeah, and if I can say comment, I guess what's really interesting about those kind of end user or end user focused digital twins, we don't have use cases as exciting as that. We kind of have find a desk, find a meeting room. If your colleagues share their location, you can find them. And then again, the data in the background is being used to manage the building. But I guess from the real estate industry, what's really interesting is if you can solve some of those problems, like saving an employee time in an office building, helping them find their colleagues, then you actually kind of release access to other budgets than the well-worn real estate budget. So you actually get access to the human resources or the well-being or the kind of campus experience, or when people are changing office or kind of moving all the time, and there's kind of, hey, why am I moving desk? Then there's even a kind of change management budget there as well in an organization. So I think Bob's heard me say these kind of things from a smart building perspective in the past, but I think, I'm from the real estate and construction industry. We need to get better at designing tools that solve kind of real people's problems and their own problems. And if we can align them, then our budget is actually dwarfed compared to some of the other budgets that kind of organizations have. And if we can tap into them, and actually quite often it's the human resources or the kind of culture people that invite us into their companies. But it's the kind of facilities and IT people that actually make the decision. But if we can kind of align ourselves as digital twin kind of providers to solve some of those problems as well, then the available budget in that organization increases from a good point of view. So that makes sense from what Craig was saying there as well. Those kind of end user focused digital twins.
And if we didn't have the moniker digital twin, draw me a line between an IoT platform and a digital twin platform. I'm looking at you, Claire, but Ken, you can go too.
I can answer really quickly. We've been calling it
Sure.
a visual intranet recently.
Intranet, okay.
So the kind of the company
Sure.
web pages. So we have the lunch menu there. We have the guidelines. Hey, floor 4 is a quiet floor, no phone calls. It's concentration floor. Floor 2 is the noisy floor. We have this is where the snacks are located. We're going to have a work from home. Have beer and chips and quiz night, pick up your beer and chips here. So it becomes this kind of, at the reception desk, it gives you all the details when you click the reception desk of the kind of things you'd ask the receptionist. So I've almost been calling it a kind of digital intranet, as in a digital touch point if there are things in the building that you're interested in finding out with or interacting with, then it's a floor plan or a digital twin embedded with some information, with some links. So for me, it's almost like a visual intranet. That's not the best description, but it kind of becomes closer to that from our perspective.
It also is less scary for the owners because it doesn't sound like new technology and something they have to be a pioneer in. It sounds like something that they can easily embrace. Yeah. It's a problem sometimes, trying to say, look, I got something leading edge, and people are like, come back when it's not leading anymore. I think that's, the case in that. So folks, let's discuss routes to market a little bit. How are you, getting there, and what type of partners and what types of, people do you embrace along the way to get to your end customer? And that, I don't know, Craig, would you like to start on that and tell us about the ThoughtWire
Sure.
network?
If you went back about 5 years ago, we would be almost 100% direct selling. So we had an in-house sales force that were out trying to knock on doors and see if they could sign stuff up, and found that was inefficient. You get one building at a time, and it's really heavy lifting, because you just mentioned that there's a lot of convincing and education that needs to happen before you sign a deal. What we're pivoting to more so now, not completely abandoning direct sales, is partnership sales. So we're in with a number of very large partners now, like the Schneider Electrics and the Telluses out of Canada, who have really big geographic distribution and huge sales forces. And we're finding that our platform is, works beautifully in combination with what they have, or fills a gap in what they have, and enabling them to go sell our stack has been a huge leg up, and it's taking us to geographies that we just wouldn't have been able to get to. So the partnership model seems to really be working for us.
All right, Claire?
Yeah, so we have a combination of direct sales, talking to building owners, and also we are focusing on a very small number, invite only, of co-creation partners, where they will take the platform and call it their own. And as I said previously, own the IP that they create on top of the platform. So this is gaining a lot of traction. So, because we're small enough, 45, 46 people, we're very selective on who we went with down the co-creation partner route. So that's working out really well for us at the moment.
Ken?
Yeah, we have
a market.
Yeah, we have a lot of direct sales, but we also get a lot of referrals from different kind of companies who we solve their customers' problems for them. So we have, for example, large kind of multi-tenant building owners and operators who their customers are happy with the building, but would like some kind of smart building tech, something really simple, and they offer that to the customers through us, and there's a referral. But then also a lot of the kind of interiors architects, kind of workplace planners who are kind of consistently redesigning office space, and they might get a mandate from a customer. Okay, we want furniture in a layout that helps people collaborate and helps people understand what space is here and all of those things. And then by them introducing us to the building, they kind of get a couple of those boxes ticked by having a kind of an interaction, let's say digital twin. And then they kind of come with 10 targets from the customer. They bring us in and we kind of deliver 3 for them. And then they get a referral fee on top of that. And that's kind of working really well.
Sounds like all 3 of you have slightly different routes, but it still involves partners. And that, what sort of tools or training do you have for new partners? I'm looking at eager people. I don't know which one to choose. Craig, you guys probably are developing some tools. What would you think your new partners might need, and what do you have?
Well, I think one of the big challenges that we found is that it's the digital twin concept, and how all of this connects can appear very complicated when you're first explaining it to someone. And what you need to do is you need to provide the tools and the language, quite frankly, to quickly bring a broad sales force up to speed, so that they can feel confident about going in and selling this stuff. And that is a barrier that you need to get past. So we've been working on a lot of training videos and communication portals and filling it with all kinds of content, and working really hard to communicate the material at a level where people can quickly absorb it and be able to go sell it confidently. And I think that's a challenge for the industry, quite frankly, but one that we're working hard on.
All right. Claire, tools and training?
Yeah, so our approach is we kind of handhold. Initially, we do very deep technical sessions, almost one-on-one with companies at the moment. And then, like Craig, we're working on videos and material documentation to help people train themselves. But we do within companies have internal evangelists, like people love what they see and what they touch and feel, so they kind of take it and they kind of evangelize within the companies that they work for. So that's working really well as well. But I agree with Craig, getting the message out into the market. And I think, Bob, you said up front that it's very mixed messages on what a digital twin is. So we're kind of, as an industry, we're kind of storming on that at the minute. But I think the premise is the same, that it's information about a building that's current and accurate, data and information. So yeah, so like Craig, we're working very hard to get the materials out there for clients, for partners and clients.
And just on cue, I have a audience question, which is good because this is the time we're supposed to be engaging in audience questions. The question is, are there initiatives to team with consulting firms who design smart building systems? I'm going to start with Ken and move through all.
Yeah, we've been contacted by a smart building design company who really just are data hungry. And who actually understand that some of the data that kind of comes from smartphone apps and from end user applications actually is kind of really valuable. So if you do have employees sharing their position because they want their colleagues to find them and they've come to the office purely for that reason, then actually it's really anonymized. In Europe, there's a really kind of strict data protection. We can see who is there, but you get really good heat maps of kind of what spaces are being used and these kind of things. But it's almost like we sometimes say humans are sensors. There's a really good, there's really good digital footprint coming from if you get end users or employees engaged in your solutions. So actually, yeah, we're and that's the kind of background I've come, and I've come from a smart building background and kind of jumped on the current bandwagon of empathic building. So yeah, definitely, if there is somebody from a smart building point of view who wants different kinds of data and who think that the kind of employee-facing data around which desks are used and displaying that, or which rooms are free and displaying that, actually gives you really good data at your fingertips, and you have to go around that way to get the data in your hands, then they're the kind of people that are kind of knocking on our door at the moment.
All right, Craig, how about your company? Initiatives to team with consulting firms who design smart building systems.
We have a number of those in place right now. I kind of missed that when I talked about how we sell, because they're a key referral source for us. We've got a number of these firms already in place where we've developed strong relationships. They become confident with our technology stack and selling it. And as they open up new contracts and find new buildings to work on, we kind of get brought in as part of the deal, which is wonderful. So absolutely open to that, and see it as a great opportunity, both for the building design firm and for our firm.
Thank you. Claire?
Yeah, our co-creation partners come from the large engineering design consulting firms, so who are mandated to deliver smart systems, so smart building systems. So yeah, we're working with some of the big guys, and there's opportunity for more in time as well.
We have another audience question from Mr. Anonymous. He happens to attend almost all of these sessions, and I'd like to ask, are there any industry standards for digital twins that are driving these technologies? Any industry standards?
So I think there's a number of ISO standards that you could hook onto this. There's the BIM standards, and I'm going to trip myself up trying to remember them all. And then there's the life cycle assessment, or the environmental standards like 14001. There's the the 19650, I think, for BIM. So there's numerous standards, and also I'm working with the BSI, British Standards Industry, on redressing the FM standards as well, and the technology from construction technology into operations. So they're all being addressed, and digital twin is a huge part of those standards. So they'll be coming out later this year. So there are numerous standards either in existence or coming down the line that will lead into digital twin.
Okay. Anyone else have anything to add on industry standards that you bump into?
That's a fair criticism we've had recently, that because we're trying to get twins out there and kind of find the use cases, that actually we're kind of bombing off a little bit on our own in our own direction. And someone kind of criticized us and said, if there was 100 companies who took the same approach as you, then, when do we actually get standardized? So I think that's a fair criticism of what we're trying to do, but we really are trying to, get the tool out into people's hands to see what kind of use cases they will come up with. And hopefully then when the standards kind of do get a bit more aligned with our complexity, our simplicity, then we can kind of jump on that bandwagon. But I think that's a fair criticism of the kind of smart office, smart building, kind of digital twin people that are kind of operating now, that maybe we're not involved in the standardization side enough.
There is a digital twin consortium, but the word consortium doesn't sound like it's making standards, but open standards anyways.
Yeah, there's a Centre for Digital Built Britain as well that are doing a huge amount of work in this area too.
All right. We have another question, and this person in the audience has worked on a project with AVIXA to identify options for the smart building of the future. And the concern at AVIXA was employee privacy was a concern regarding positional information, even tie-ins to the gym equipment. How do you deal with this question? I have to tell one story that's not mine. It belongs to Matthew, a friend of mine, who everybody's laughing. The panel, I think, has heard this before, but they installed I guess it was a sensor system, and the employees weren't informed, weren't educated, and they threw out a $700,000 investment because they thought it was looking up skirts and doing other naughty things and reporting on people's work habits. And the employees just had it and, killed the project. Amazing. But there's the question is, how do you deal with privacy? Craig?
Yeah, I can handle that one. So I'm not sure if people are aware of the Sidewalk Labs initiative that Google attempted within Toronto, but it was an attempt at a smart neighborhood or district within Toronto. And it ultimately completely fell apart for reasons of data privacy. And what's grown from that is there's a new group called Innovate Cities. We're a member of that new group. And we're putting in place a data trust, which allows complete management of data in an anonymized way, which means, and I think Ken mentioned this, that you can see the location of a person, but you have no idea who that person is. And it fits within GDPR and all the different privacy requirements, but still allows us to provide real benefit to the people who are in those buildings, and that we know their location. So yeah, we call it privacy by design. It's built into everything that we do and everything that Innovate Cities is driving. And we see that like absolutely essential if we're going to get to a point where we're driving user experience based on a person's location.
Yeah, and privacy by design is the perfect way to talk about it. There's two really simple rules of thumb. One is that in real time, your location is always opt out, and then you opt in. So you create that setting. And then the other thing is about historical data collection of where you have been. There's very strict rules on the kind of level of analysis, the context that you can be collected in. So if I go to the office next Saturday, they can't tell that I was there. They could maybe tell if somebody from my team was there if my team has over a certain number of people, maybe let's say 25. If my team is less than 25 people, then that's too close to me. So they can say somebody from my company or department. So whatever the next level of abstraction is. So it's about opt-in in real time. And then the historical data collection is really far away from that person. And they're the kind of main tenants. And then in real time, whether it's opt-in or opt-out, kind of 5 meters around the toilets, you become invisible, things like that. But they're really, really kind of straightforward industry standards. Nobody would show how long you've been in the toilet.
All right. Folks, I want to say, unfortunately, we've run out of time like we usually do on the Power Hour. An hour is not really long enough when you have such a wealth of information. I want to thank you all, my expert panel, and I should probably turn it over to Marcella now.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you to the panelists and to our listeners for joining us today. This recording will be available on avixa.org/webinars within about 5 business days, and your 1 RU credit will be applied to your transcripts within 5 to 7 business days. If you have any questions, please contact webinars@avixa.org. A huge thank you to Bob and guests for providing insights into understanding how to overcome obstacles for smart building integration via using BIM and digital twin. Our next Smart Buildings Power Hour webinar will be held on August 4th. Registration will open soon. We hope you've enjoyed. Have a great day. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.